Rugby World Cup predictions, folks. It's just that time. It's that time. We're so close to the World Cup that we are obsessed with how the thing is going to pan out. I've spoken to my dad about some rugby predictions. A lot of you guys tuned into that one. If you saw it the other day, I talked to Sergio Parise and Chris Robshaw, former international captains, plus journalist James Weil, about their predictions as well. So feel free to click those ones. That was certainly something a bit different. But how about kind of a neutral prediction? Let's just look at the data. You guys know I love my stats. Let's just go with some head-to-head records. Try to keep it as recent as possible where we can and see who comes out on top. Do I think this is going to be accurate? No, because I did this last World Cup and it was wrong. But I was curious to see how it would play out. It's just what we do until the World Cup actually kicks off. So, head-to-head prediction, what are we doing? We're looking at the head-to-head record between teams. We'll take the most recent 3 games, and whoever's got the better record across those 3 games, that's your winner. If it's a split, if it's like 2 wins and a draw, or if they've never played, we will just go on Rugby World Rankings as the kind of separator between the two. So, Pool A is being widely tipped to be a battle between France and New Zealand for who goes through first and who goes through second. That's the way the kind of the head-to-head record sees it as well. France has beaten Uruguay, Namibia, and Italy in all their most recent encounters. Likewise, New Zealand against those 3 teams has never lost, so it is just the head-to-head between France and New Zealand. Who comes out on top? Well, it's New Zealand if you're looking at the last 3, even though France's win is the most recent one and the 2 New Zealand wins are going back into 2018. But between the last 3 games, New Zealand have got a 2-1 record over France, so New Zealand goes through top, France goes through second. Pool B, the pool of death. South Africa, Ireland, those are your 2 favourites. Scotland is a bit of a dark horse. Can Scotland get up over this one? Sadly for the Scots, no, because they don't have any wins against Ireland or South Africa in their last 3 attempts against either side. So South Africa, they've got a 3-0 record over Scotland. They've never lost to Romania. I think they've only played once, and they've beaten Tonga in their 2 games with them. Ireland, likewise, 3-0 against Romania, 3-0 Scotland, 2-0 Tonga. The only question is, who goes through first and who goes through second between Ireland and South Africa. Well, Ireland have got a 2-1 record over South Africa in their last 3 meetings. So it's Ireland go through first and South Africa go through as the pool's runner-up. Now, Pool C. Pool C is an interesting one, but maybe looks a little bit more historical in terms of some of the results. Wales, of all teams at the moment. I say of all teams, I don't mean that in any disrespect, but Wales' recent record is not that flash. But against the teams in their pool, their record is good enough to see them go through as the top qualifier. Does that seem realistic at the moment? I mean, you never know. That pool's really open. I mean, you could even say Fiji's the favourite in that pool. Some people would back Eddie Jones with the Wallabies, but the head-to-head record's got Wales. They're 3-0 against Fiji in their last 3 games. They're 1-0 against Portugal, although that goes way back into the 1990s from memory. They're 2-1 over Australia, and they're 2-1 over Georgia. So Wales go 4 from 4 to top the pool, and it's Australia that go through as the runner-up. They've beaten Georgia once. They've never lost to them. They've got 3-0 record of recent times over Fiji, and they've never played Portugal, but they do have a higher world ranking than Portugal. So I'm putting Australia through as the second place of the sides. Runners up to the Welsh. So Wales and Australia, same as what it was at the last World Cup. And then Pool D was crazy. Pool D is genuinely a weird one. Argentina, potentially favourites for that pool, top ranked team in the pool. Their record against England is a negative one, 2-1. They won the most recent game, but over the last 3, they have a negative record against England, so that's a loss. That's their first game. Their record against Samoa is negative. We're looking back to 2005 as the most recent game, so not very relevant, but hey, this is the rules we set. And then the 1990s, it's 2-1 to Samoa. So Argentina dropped their first 2 games. They managed to beat Chile and they beat Japan, who they have 3-0 records against across their most recent 3 games. But then you look at Japan. Japan's got a higher ranking than Chile, so they beat them. They've never played. They lose to England because they've never beaten them. But they beat Samoa because they've got a 2-1 record over Samoa in recent times. Samoa won the most recent one, but Japan's got a better record overall. And then they lose to Argentina because their record is zip from 3 against them in the last 3. Then you got Samoa, who beat Chile based on world rankings, beat Argentina, as I mentioned, but then lose to Japan and lose to England. So you've got England going through top of the pool, winning all their games. They've never played Chile, but world rankings-wise sees them beat them. And then it's a split because you got 2 wins, 2 losses, 2 wins, 2 losses, 2 wins, 2 losses. In the event of a tie, I'm using world rankings as the decider. So for that one, Argentina, after dropping their first 2 games, goes through as the second qualifier from Pool D. So that was the craziest of the pools. I didn't see that coming, but I didn't realize Argentina and Samoa just haven't played for 20 odd years. So we get to the quarterfinals. Quarterfinal 1 sees Wales taking on Argentina. And interestingly, again, with Argentina, man, your record against Wales is a split. So 1 win, 1 loss, and a draw. We're splitting it again on world rankings. So Argentina go through to the semi-finals. Quarterfinal 2 is France and Ireland. Now, I went into this thinking Ireland has got a better recent record against pretty much everybody they could come up against. But the one team they don't have, at least that I quickly checked, I didn't check them all, but they don't have a winning record against France across their last 3 games. They did win their most recent one on the road to that Grand Slam, but they've only won 1 of the last 3 against France. So for the quarterfinal, France is the team that goes through based on a 2-1 record. Then you got England and Australia, which is the dream clash, with Eddie Jones looking to get revenge over Steve Borthwick. But when Eddie Jones was in charge of England, his England side beat Australia. So Eddie Jones' own record comes to haunt him. It's 2-1 to England. So England go through to a semi-final, and then it's New Zealand against South Africa, the big Southern Hemisphere clash. It's been a bit of a toss of a coin between these two sides recently, because if you're looking at the last 4 games, it's 2-2. But if you're looking at the last 3, it's 2-1 to New Zealand. So New Zealand under Ian Foster send the Springboks home after a quarterfinal, despite that record loss in the most recent game. Then we look at the semi-finals, Argentina-France. France have got a 3-zip record over Argentina recently, so France make a home final. England against New Zealand is actually a split. Most recent result was a draw. Prior to that was that World Cup match where the All Blacks lost, and then there's an All Blacks win there as well. So with the split, we go on world rankings, which the All Blacks scrape through to a final. Remember, they play France, who they met back in the pool, and the recent record across the last 3 games, which in this case does date back to a long time ago, 2018, sees New Zealand as your Rugby World Cup winners, just based on head-to-head. I feel like if you were just doing the one most recent game, then it has to be Ireland, right? Because who's beaten Ireland in their most recent game? Has Ireland lost to anybody in their most recent game? Yeah, I don't think so. But yeah, head-to-head record. The All Blacks under Ian Foster go through and win a 4th World Cup. I could live with that. There's some pretty unlikely scenarios there, but as I said, those are the rules we set down. Mostly just a bit of fun. I'm just waiting for the Rugby World Cup to kick off. I'm going to talk to the guy from the Rugby Forecast algorithm a bit later on today, hopefully, to see what his algorithm says in terms of the likelihood for predictions as well. And then we should start getting some lineups out, and then the whole thing's going to get underway. So, yes, you guys let us know your thoughts. How do you reckon the World Cup is panning out at the moment in terms of your favourites and whatnot? Who's being predicted too heavily? Do you think the injury tolls are going to be too much for the teams which are picking up on them? Because there's been more and more players reporting injured already. As I said, check out the thing I did with Sergio Parise and Chris Robshaw the other day. Hopefully it's a bit of an interesting watch, something a bit different for 2 Cents fans. But yeah, you guys take care, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.